Welcome one and all. I am Lex.
I'm Hazen Fields II.
And I'm Hazen Fields III, a.k.a. Trey. How you feeling?
And you're watching Various Fields. How are we doing, everybody? This is another episode.
Hi, everybody.
We're jumping in. I wanted to be, I guess, a little real for a second, as we say. I want to get the audience to be a little behind the scenes. Because I just had a very nice conversation with my brother, and then funny enough, actually, I'm going to tell you about the morning today. Because this is very funny, and I just think it shows how in sync we are and kind of the energy of the day. Mm-hmm. So as I'm headed out to leave to go to this podcast, I end up calling one of my friends because they were talking about like having an art day, just kind of getting people together to like, everyone to kind of work on various arts that we do to try to help support each other. Right? Mm-hmm. On my way, I happen to look in my rearview mirror, and I'm like, I look behind. I was like, oh, this looks like the car looks like the car I used to drive. And I look closer, and I'm like, is that Trey?
It was me.
We were sharing cars, so he has the car that I was driving now, so he does that. So I happened to do that. So I talked to Trey. Now we're talking on the phone as we're out on the way. And without getting into, is there anything for crazy timing? Like I'm hands-free. Hands-free. Yes, for my audience, thank you, Nels. For the audience, it's a Bluetooth connected, and my phone is in a little stand there. But yes, well, also, being safe while we're driving.
That's right.
But we're doing that, and Trey was just talking about all the things that were on his mind, and talking and when we land, same thing. It happens the same kind of conversation. My pops was talking about the things that are on his mind and just mentioned, in the term is adulting, but mentioned just kind of like the struggles of like navigating life a little bit. And it's funny because that lined up with a movie I watched yesterday that was called Marty Supreme. Maybe you can throw like a small like little trailer thing, but if you guys have seen it around, it's been people talk about it's popular, all that jazz. The actor is Timothée Chalamet. And without giving spoilers to the audience, without giving spoilers to you guys, because I do think it's a really, really, really good film. It's also a very annoying film because the structure is you're watching a character make a lot of decisions for his own personal gain at a lot of other people's expense. And I think a lot of the argument is like, are we supposed to root for this guy because he really can't, really just deplorable kind of individual. But at the same time, it's someone who is passionate about what they do. And I think it's something that individualism in America kind of champions a lot. It's very, they even mention as a small thing, like, oh, he's from New York. Yeah, it's got that New York hustle. And they kind of use that to dismiss, or the character uses it to dismiss a lot of his actions. Like, you got to get it how you get it kind of vibe. And it's interesting because I know this sounds all kind of scattered, but I'm tying it all the way around to a little bit of the Renee Good situation. I want the audience to stick with me here because there's a lot of connective dots. Again, something actually I don't want to show. I don't want to show the video again. I think the video's been around a lot. It's atrocious. I work adjacent to the news now. I used to work in the news. And I think our culture and communities have been very unfortunately getting used to seeing a lot of public shootings and things like that. And I just, as of right now, I think we've seen enough. So we don't need to show that on this episode. And some of the discussion that happens around Renee Good, I think has been from, depending on quote unquote the side of your take, has been, oh my gosh, did Renee drive at the officer? Was the officer shooting in self-defense? To me, if you've seen the video, it's very clear. It's very clear that Renee Good was no threat. And I believe that the ICE officer should have been better trained or should have acted more appropriately. But I'm mentioning this because to tie everything around together, I do want to see and talk more about how we got there. A lot of people like to break down the video in that moment.
Yes.
And be like, okay, here's the thing. But there are a couple of things we don't know. We don't know how Renee Good, because I think a lot of the videos show the positioning of the car, how the Renee's Good position got in the middle of the street. We don't know why, at least particularly why all the ICE agents were there in that exact area at that moment. I do know the federal administration, Trump's administration, sent a lot of ICE agents to Minnesota, I think at the dismissal of both Governor Walz and I can't remember the Minnesota's mayor's name right now, but against their wishes as well. And I believe it was Governor Walz who said it's inevitable that something like this would happen. That because the ICE agents and ICE officers were doing more harm than good in the community. They were supposed to be here to protect, and they're doing.
Jacob Frey, is it?
Jacob Frey is the name of the mayor from Minnesota.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I'll double check again.
But again, I'm pretty sure, again, as an audience member, as you've probably seen this all around and you've heard these takes before. However, something I wanted to do, and this is how I'm connecting the movie, this is how I'm connecting our conversations, and this is how I'm leading it back to what I'd like to say is the ICE officer Renee Good situation, is I think there are moments in time where it is very hard to, how do I say this? It's very hard to know where people are at in their lives. You know? It's very hard to know. I think a lot of people try to judge things by quote unquote good and bad. And I think, of course, there are objectively bad things and objectively good things, but there are things that we use when we overuse a term. I think it can dismiss the nuance of certain situations. And I'm going to reference more of the movie again. I'm going to reference both for our lives again, personal lives again. But I think we've all been in situations where we either feel lost or struggling. It's just hard to know how to navigate. It's hard to know what's ahead of us. Fear, all those emotions, all those things I think play in that scenario. And then we, as a community, as people who aren't there, have to say, okay, what was the right decision at the time? But at the same time, I think that takes away from a little bit of the humanity of people. You know, it takes away from a little of the decisions. I believe it's Kristi Noem is the, and then there's another federal administrator, because there's two of them. But effectively, I know people, the federal administration, again, is trying to brand Renee Good as a domestic terrorist, which seems like a stretch.
Which we talked about that with with last week. We mentioned or a couple weeks ago, we mentioned the initiative from the executive order. We talked about how changing the name of something by calling anything that they want direct terrorism. And this is the bad thing. So I just want to go on record. I'm gonna just say for ourselves here at Various Fields, although we're going to go into a nuanced conversation, we are saying to the world, there is no reason in the world for Miss Good to have lost her life.
Not one reason.
There's nothing. There's no negotiation. There's nothing that we're doing. Even though we're having a conversation about the nuances, we're just being clear that her death was a tragedy, as was George Floyd's death, a tragedy that should have never, ever happened, no matter what.
Yeah, not only could have been avoided, it shouldn't have happened.
It shouldn't have happened. You know, and then I get, and this is probably a part of the things that weighed on my mind. It's just where the country is going to. Right. As you know, we met in the parking lot, and we all had a energy, and that's a part of it. There's no way in the world that I'm going to participate in a conversation where we are going to say that the person who was victimized was a part of the problem. Right. In this instance, they they are gone. A mother, a child who will never have their mother again because of the direct hand of what this administration has opened up into America to try to call it normal. So I just wanted to get that out the way. Yeah, this is not normal.
Yes,
right.
Yeah,
it's not normal.
Not normal.
But I guess going back to the topic at hand, how does what was the movie called again? Marty Supreme connect to the ICE agent in particular? Because are you saying that the ICE agent was just having a bad day?
No. Actually, a part of it must be, to be honest. And I don't mean that in terms of that gives it a right, but I'm saying you have to be in a bad mindset to to be in a position where you feel it is necessary to unalive someone. You have to be. And I don't even mean whether you perceive it or not. But there's a reason why I'm getting this. There's a reason I'm connecting to this. I'm mentioning this because I think a lot of times too many people get away with too much.
Yes.
And I think as in this social media culture and this culture of the game, there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of voices out there. And And I'm saying there's good and bad to it. I think there are more people who are saying go to therapy. There are more people who are saying, hey, give yourself some time to look at yourself. There's some more time being like a lot of people who say there's a term I'm looking for, but I don't know. There's a lot of words and voices out there because of social media that focus on individualism, both for good and for bad, but I think it sometimes muddies the situation, makes it harder to look at someone who's making a wrong decision and tell them to stop way ahead of time. You know, I think a good example, I think a term that's being used a lot more is like red flags.
Yes.
You know, there are red flags in relationships. People try to look for red flags in relationships. But I think for me personally, sometimes it's hard to tell what a red flag is. And the difference being is like, yes, someone did something bad. Is that person doing something bad in that moment? Is that something that we should give them grace for? Should this be even something we align ourselves with? Now, I'm not connecting this to the ICE agent. What I'm saying is, going back to the movie we're talking about, it starts off with someone who wants something so dearly, who wants something, and I have to be careful because I'm not trying to spoil it, who wants something so dearly, trying to win a competition. And again, at the expense of people who care for him, at the expense of people who are there for him, at the expense of people who have helped him, at the expense of people he knows, almost everyone in his life, for his own selfish needs, he hurt in some type of tremendous way to get what he wanted. And even at the end, he was happy with it. There's no remorse. And I'm connecting that because, honestly, this feels a lot like the Trump administration. This feels a lot like where our nation is going.
Yes.
And I think something that we're losing in this is we try do the whole left versus right, red versus blue thing. I think we do a lot of we're trying to prove who's right. We're trying to prove but I'm saying there is a certain moment where enough is enough, but also there's a certain moment where you sacrifice beyond yourself, you know? So speaking directly about ICE agent, about that kind of thing, I can't imagine a situation where I'm supposed to be the professional in the scenario. I'm supposed to be someone who knows how to handle these situations. And then I'm letting the public defend my actions after I've killed someone, you know? And there are also other people who are trying to defend that individual for the sake of saying, oh, okay, Renee Good shouldn't have turned her wheels towards or whatever the case is, and that he was scared for his life. And I'm not saying people can't be scared, but legitimately, if we're talking about a professional ICE agent with a gun at, again, a wife, a mother of 3 children, why can't Renee Good have also been scared and have stuttered and made the wrong move, made a brash decision at the moment, but was that enough to lose a life? And I think we could all say no.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. This is a heavy. So I'm gonna. So not to. I know normally when we do our little transition, we, but we're just gonna just say, if this conversation is something that you find of interest, please like, share, subscribe,
hit all the
buttons.
No segue for this one,
right? Yeah, I don't want to do any comical segue because there is nothing.
Right.
One of the things you're talking about decision making,
yes.
and let's talk in that game. I was so surprised. We've had conversations before in kind of bringing the lightheartedness of it.
Yeah.
We used to laugh at the concept of henchmen.
Yes.
How do they join?
Yes.
There used to be a G.I. Joe, I believe, and they had the people that joined Cobra. It's like, how did people join Cobra? And now we're living in it.
Yeah.
I was watching, I don't even want to say the station I was watching, and it's a station that's kind of like a platform. I don't know how you did,
right.
But an actual ad, it came up so quick, it almost looked like a glitch. But it said, become an ICE agent. And it was, and it told the price. Now, here's the thing. There are a lot of people going through financial troubles right now. Even people who are relatively good can see the financial opportunity that could be offered to you as an ICE agent. And they make a choice. But I doubt if there's anyone that hears, hey, you're an ICE agent, great for you, good. No, it's almost like saying, I've decided to become a henchman of Donald Trump. And I'm going to put ice on, I'm going to have a mask on my face, and I'm going to do. So it's almost like, especially the new people, the the professional ICE agent is almost an oxymoron. It's, and it's like, I don't think you are being trained to de-escalate. Right. You're not being trained, at least not in great degrees. Right. So you know how to work with the public. So yes, the henchmen that bad guys get are people who are oftentimes, not all of them, might be in such a bad decision-making thing. I have to raise a family. What am I to do? Let me join the Joker. Let me join the Riddler. Let me join Donald Trump. Let me join all the bad guys because I need a job. And being an ICE agent, so far as I'm concerned, goes to the scripture, how, about gaining the whole world to lose your soul.
Yes.
And I believe that now I'm going to say this. I believe there is an ICE agent out there that's sitting and looking at himself in the mirror and saying, what did I do?
Absolutely.
How did I become this? But they look at their family, look at their children, and they say, I have to weigh, and you make a decision that compromises your integrity, your moral compass, because you need to make money.
Right.
We have a president that took advantage of people's economic state by offering all of this money for people that will do his bidding.
Right.
And it saddens me beyond belief.
Right. Well, I all to that, I also want to make sure that we don't make the excuse the reason, and more to the point of understanding, like you said, this is all more of a part of the play, part of the plan that this administration already has enacted, disenfranchising a lot of the jobs already out there, right? And making it harder for any one person to even earn a proper income with one job, with two jobs even, right? Along with that, like you said, I'm offering a lot of money to ICE agents alone, right? All of it is like, hey, there's no other better value than working for your nation becomes the reason, right? And then with that being said, you might have no other excuse for your own personal reason to support your family than doing something that you don't want to do, right? But that still becomes the excuse, right? The excuse is why, the question becomes, why was Renee Good shot? All right. If the excuse that Kristi Noem said that ICE agents had to do some type of entrenchment in a neighborhood community because they were stuck in the snow, perhaps the reason why Renee Good swerved as she was trying to disengage in a vehicle away from the ICE agent is because the snow caused her to also lose control of her vehicle, right? If that excuse can apply to an ICE agent on the ground with a gun on his feet, it can be the same applied to the vehicle that she was driving. But nevertheless, she was trying to run away. She was trying to get out of that situation and was still got shot for it.
In the face.
In the face. The gun was in the window of the driver's seat. So it was shot at her. It wasn't like, oh, misfire. It wasn't like an aim to to scare or
disable the vehicle
in any kind of way. Right. It was at her.
Right.
All right. So what was the excuse then?
And I think that's exactly. Thank you guys for helping me land the plane. So I'm trying to get to the point of, I guess, when we get to a point where I send agents or individuals, but just for our audience, even if you're ever in a moment where it comes to a job, you're never in this situation, but talking about moments where you feel like you're compromising yourself. Because I think the thing that I'm trying to get at with all the type of stuff is, I think in our heart of hearts, I would, and this could be a fault of mine, even people that are voting against the way I'm voting know that that's not right. I don't like being in a spot where, and it could be some version of me being naive. I don't like being in a spot where we have to discuss the legitimacy of someone losing their life.
Right. Exactly.
There is a phrase that I've always found slightly funny, but I understand the situation. There's a phrase where it comes, all is fair in love and war. And that situation was neither love nor war.
Yes.
So in that type of situation, there's no positioning in which that was right.
Yes.
That was correct. And one of the things that keep getting me, I've said this before, is that, the discussion keeps being around what Renee Good did. Like, even if you're on the support of Renee Good, it's like, what did Renee Good did? They did this. You have to have people. You have like 3 angles of feminism. But the first understanding was enough. And even without the video acknowledging that they should be more professional.
Yes.
I do know the ICE agent. This is I can't remember funny enough, the Trump administration accidentally released the ICE agent's name. They didn't even mean to do that. But the ICE agent's name is out there. But I'm mentioning it because I know. I was going to say gentleman, but I honestly can't. But that individual had an experience apparently from reported by the administration that he had an interaction with a car where he got run over like 6 months or so ago. And they're saying that was one of the things, like if you're in that situation, you could understand how scared he would have been to be in that position. And I say, then why does he have that job at all? Right? Why are you in the position where we understand someone's trauma can affect their decisions? And we also don't know the trauma that Renee Good went through.
Jonathan Ross.
Jonathan Ross
is the name.
I'm going to try to put it all together because I apologize for it seeing all over the place. But I think it's one of those things where it's so simple that I feel like I have to make all these connective points.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm going to put it, there are bad people out there.
Yes.
And bad people need to be stopped. And I think it's our responsibility, if you see yourself as someone who is good, to call that out and be better about that earlier on, And I think that is hard. I think it's hard to know when you have someone in your life that you may care about, they may know, or whatever the case is, or even you might be even scared of conflict. But I think we're in a moment now where we can't keep letting people get away with it.
Yeah, I just wanted to double down on what I was saying, so I can make myself abundantly clear. I am in no way trying to make it look like those people who are ICE agents are those who only dealt with a financial dilemma.
Right.
I'm saying to you that there may be those who have that situation.
Yes, of course.
But indeed, there are some bad actors out there that want to do bad.
Right.
Like people that go to comedy shows with the purpose of being a heckler.
Right.
People that when the light just turns green and they're yelling at you and giving you the finger and people who are just mean-spirited when they're standing online and making nasty statements when they're at a Chinese food restaurant and their food doesn't. They gotta have jobs too.
Right.
There are some bad people out there that want to have this authority. There are bad people out there that want to flex and suggest it's for America, but it's not. It's for their self-serving narcissism, and they're doing bad things because that's their bad person decision. They exist too.
Yeah.
So now maybe I've given 2 extremes and there are people that land in the middle, but I am not going to pretend that I'm naive to bad people existing.
And I want to throw it to Trey in a second, so I will make sure, because we're both going on rants, I want to make sure I make a discussion, but you said it yourself, and this is the thing where it's the idea of being self-serving. And I think that's the thing. I think the reason I'm trying to bring this up is that I think either we're in a time now, it's harder to call people out for doing bad things. Because I think we are in a time in a society in America where now, in mind, it is hard to get capital here. It's hard to get money. It's hard to get resources, things like that. And I think we come from a time now where a lot of things, even at the expense of others, even at the expense of people, will be like, hey, yeah, get the bag, get your money, do what you need to do. And I understand that. I do. But there has to be a time where we say money's not enough. And as a country, as a community, as people, we have to make it an abundantly clear line. I have one more analogy I'm going to make for a second, but I wanted to throw it just to you, just to make sure I'm not taking too much time. But
right now,
you just ensure.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, I'm just being aware of my own self and things.
I appreciate it. No, it was like I was also going to add to the fact of like I don't want to taking all the excuses off the table, because we also heard about the idea of ICE agents not being trained as well as they were in the initial intake, right? In fact, and training standards have been dropped, right? To actually have more people come into it, right? But nevertheless, I don't want the training to be the excuse either.
Exactly.
Right? Right? Because like how many times have you heard about poor training from police officials? In which case, like we actually have to deal with, and mind you, I'm not going to necessarily say that they are one and the same, right? But nevertheless, having letting training be the excuse for any official of authority to uphold law and regulations in a city or a county, right? To take a life, right?
Exactly.
Right? For any of that to be an excuse and a reason for that to happen is just a bad one.
Yeah.
Right? Right? You can't say, like, so are you saying that people need to be trained more? Or are you saying that the only reason it's allowed is if they are afraid for their life? Like, I don't appreciate any of it, honestly.
No, I get it, because like the discussions themselves, although like, because usually when people say it's bad training, it's like, okay, it's bad training. These ICE officers need to be trained better so they don't do that situation. But at the same time, like you said, we're talking about someone who lost their life, and even there should be a certain level of inherentness where it's like, hey, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't kill someone. And I believe we're getting to a point now, especially with how this video is out and type of stuff, a lot of debate, where I'm not saying the debate is unnecessary, because you absolutely have to say the facts. You have to absolutely prove the fact that, and this is the sad part, we are people who are fighting to prove the fact that Renee Good didn't have to lose her life. And that is inherent. I think that is known that shouldn't be.
Right.
That should not be something that has to be proved.
Right.
You know?
Like if you go down the story, like if this story tracks, and this is just how the way America is going to go on from now on, right, then we'll have many more incidents with this to begin with. And this is the start of a fairly new, I guess, organization, right? So like, how do we track it? How do we control it from this? It all starts from like right now.
Well, ICE has been around for a while.
No, I understand
that. Yeah, you're saying
like
implementing
all
via this administration. It's taken on a new shade,
a new
hue. Yes,
a new hue.
A new hue. It is
an orange one.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
The ice is colder.
It is. Yeah. And the thing that's interesting about it, you talk about where things came from. The reason why people were on the street in the first place is because they were citizens, community people, trying to warn their neighbors about the presence of ICE being in there.
Right.
So Renee Good was a person who was there, and people took positions of not liking the idea of ICE coming and taking their neighbors. So here's the heart of it is the communities all around America are showing their discontent. They're getting whistles. I don't know, In fact, I got to go purchase myself a whistle so that you can alert people in your neighborhood when the ICE, the ICE people are there.
Welcome one and all. I'm Lex.
I'm Hazen Fields II.
And I'm Trey. How y'all doing, interwebs?
And this is Various Fields reminding y'all to please
like, share, subscribe, and hit all the buttons. You blow the whistle so that you can alert your neighbor to be, and I think that's a wonderful idea that you have community that is trying to protect people. Because we keep saying, we've mentioned this before, if I keep saying immigrant, if I keep saying Democrat, if I keep saying Republican, if I keep saying words that diminish the humanity of the person I'm speaking of, then we lose that ability to see individuals.
Right.
So therefore, we're becoming, and in America, I'm talking to you, we can't continue down this road.
Right.
It's not sustainable. I need you and you need me. If we can be tolerant of one another, if we can learn to, honestly, it sounds harsh, but if we just learn to mind our own business, meaning just listen, I don't care, just as long as you don't hurt me and I don't hurt you, I want you to live and live your best life. But when we start pointing fingers and saying you and the way you live and what you're doing is affecting me and my house, when it's not true. When how you love, who you love, it doesn't affect me personally. But it does affect me when people who do not affect me get schmurdered. I don't know what to say. Unalived. They get unalived. I'm going to go back to schmurdered. Unalive. I'm sorry. I'm going to go only because unalive almost now sounds like a choice. I'm just gonna, this person, they didn't lose, their life was taken. their life was taken. And that's, and if you think about the size of a life compared to the size of a bullet, there's something that's wrong.
Yeah. This is gonna come off weird because this is not like an I told you so because it'll be well past time. But I remember when Trump was first campaigning, first president, and despite, because one thing I have to almost like hold myself accountable for, I don't think I could perceive it being this bad in this country, even with Trump as president. I didn't want to vote for him, but I don't think I could perceive how much power, how much manipulation, how much he got away with. Because I would have liked to believe that at least the idea of the general American government would have been like, hey, stop that. I legitimately thought we would have done that earlier. I really do. But I remember even before getting to all that, I was thinking, especially because people forget, we went from Obama to Trump, which is
it's crazy.
If you're driving, you went the wrong direction very quickly.
Yes.
And I remember thinking one of the things that stood out to me the most is how he talks. His rhetoric is absolutely insane. And maybe because we come up from a household, thanks to our father, thanks to our race, we take vocabulary, we take the way we speak very, very seriously. There's a lot of pride in it. And I don't mean like, we try to use big words all the time. I think all three of us try to be very patient, both in conversation, how we communicate, and how we even communicate with ourselves. We realize words can be very powerful.
Yes.
And it's insane to see someone who is the leader of the most powerful nation in the world. I say that with quotes because power is also something that I feel is misunderstood these days. But someone who is in that control should have a certain level of responsibility. And dog whistle that can corrupt, that is non-caring, you give carte blanche and a lot of room for people who have either less responsibility, less care, less brackets around their lives to care, to be in a position where they say, I should hold my breath. I shouldn't speak of this way. I shouldn't look this way. If the president is doing it, the president doesn't care. Now I don't need to care. And I think we can see the deterioration from our country, not just from his policies, but just from how he speaks, how he talks to the people who want his power, the people who think like he does, and give themselves permission to act any way they want.
Right. The people are so far removed from the issues individually, right, that it doesn't become an issue until it actually affects them personally, right? And I don't know who's furthest removed than the president himself, because I feel as if like he's enacting these laws like and all these mandates because there's an initiative that he's pushing, right? And all these cause and effects are just difficulties in fulfilling a plan, right? So if we're just numbers, or we're just letters on a piece of paper to him, if we're just numbers on a docket to him, right? It's really up to the community to really just put a name to the face. Like I know oftentimes we joke about being nerds, and we are still very much nerds, but like there's a lot of things that track in this narrative that we've already seen in media before. Like we've likened this to Darth Vader, we've likened this to stormtroopers, to the point where people are taking this as a simile more so than a metaphor, you know? So like, how do we stop them from blowing up Palpatine? Blowing up, what was that planet called?
Now the Star Wars fans are going to be mad at us.
Star Wars are about to be mad at us, right? Blowing up a planet, right? Like, how do we prevent him from becoming Senator Palpatine if he's not that already, you know? Like, where do the Jedis, where do the rebels intervene? You know, I'm sorry for the analogy.
No, you're right. Because first off, if you're a Star Wars fan, here's a fun fact, because I've seen this. If you're a Star Wars fan and you aren't fighting against fascism, you need to watch those movies again.
Exactly.
But no, because I wanted to bring this up. I'm glad you brought up the media, because this, again, the Marty Supreme thing connected it. But that movie reminded me of how bad people can be. Because I think a lot of us notice when we're affected by bad people, and there's two things that we either do. We either feel like those people are out to get us.
Right.
Either feel like those bad people are out to get us specifically. When something bad happens, I was like, I can't believe this person did this to me. They must hate me. They must not like me. Or they also think of a thing, we might try to excuse it, or we might try to dismiss it. We might be like, we'll do this thing. Maybe it was a bad day. But I think there is a in-between that we kind of forget, or at least that feels like a deterioration. There's a deterioration of empathy that feels like that's happening in our country. Because now I think more bad people get away with a lot more, because I think we believe we're being understanding. We're like, well, they did this, but they're trying to get money at the end of the day. Maybe they hurt me, maybe they hurt the friend, maybe they hurt the friend. But at the end of the day, they're just trying to do their thing, and I'm going to stay out of it. I'm not. But this sounds weird because we also talked about this, I think, maybe 2 weeks ago. We talked about honor. We talked about the idea of chivalry.
Right.
And mind you, that is an archaic sense. But I think there's an idea, an understanding where I felt like, even with all the racism, even with all this, there felt like this nation used to have a certain line of like, hey, this is what we do, this is what we don't do, this is what. Because fascism is like what we fought against. We fought against we fought against being ruled, and now we're watching someone who is attempting to rule, and we're like, well, he's doing his thing. This person was scared for their life. Sorry, one last thing I'm going to say, because I know this is all over the place, but
I'm going to just say this.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you say the last thing, but don't apologize for being, if you will, what you call all over the place. This is a very emotional topic, and it will open up doors in our core that is legitimate. So please make your point. And I'm sorry about that.
No, I appreciate that. Because I think something I notice, and this could be, again, just the circles I'm in, could be the algorithm, all kind of stuff, but I like to believe this, something I've noticed in comparison to a lot of things we give carte blanche to or not. Most people, and a good majority of people, know that cheating on a partner of yours is bad. Most people know that. I think that's also kind of like almost a global thing. Now, people have cheated on partners, people do. And I think we've gotten to a point now where it's even more frowned upon. There used to be a time when I was younger, used to be a time where different, where people were like, hey, I would do this. Even people try to be a player, people try to do this kind of thing. And I think people even have a hard time getting away with it now. I think there's an idea of, I like to believe, maybe people aren't, maybe it's not like a nationwide thing, but I think people understand how insidious cheating is. I think people are more scared of cheating because it's easier to get caught now because of social media. Whatever the case is, I think people understand that cheating is objectively bad. If you have a friend who has cheated, if you have a friend who's cheating on a partner or something like that, even if you're close to them, you probably in your heart of hearts are like, hey, that was bad, they shouldn't have done this thing. Or whatever the case is. Or maybe and this is not to call out any audience, but maybe if you cheated and you're like, hey, this is, whatever the case is, I think we understand that decision. However, it's interesting because it's almost like there's a branding around cheating that's happened where like most people will call it out. Most people will say bad. It's on TV and media all the time. I don't think I've ever seen a piece of media where someone has been a cheater and then they've been made to be the good guy. I don't think I've ever, so there's like a cultural understanding around there that is now seen to be, but it's not applied to things like racism. It's not applied to things like sexism. It's not applied to even the things like we're seeing with Renee Good, where someone was schmurdered, as they say, as my dad says. But
Vitality extraction team.
Vitality extraction. It's not placed like that. And I'm only bringing this up because it's interesting where it's like there's a level of the power that we have as a culture to make people more than abundantly aware that this is something we don't accept is, I think, something we need to get back to. Yeah. And that's something we can allow ourselves to let be deteriorated from a federal administration, from government, from whatever the case is. And I know this seems like a very simple thing, and I'm going to, again, try to land this. But the fear that's happening now is that we are having a certain level of, at least as a country, as a nation, fatigue. There's a certain level of, hey, we don't know what to do. We don't know how to handle this. These people have more power than us. But I think we forget as a nation, as people, we control the culture, we control the narrative, we control that kind of thing. And if we make it so, it can be so. That's the same thing that the same thing that we're doing against the governments are doing. Sorry, I know this is all over the place. Last time I'm going to say it. I'll put it this way. The federal administration, the president, Donald Trump, has actively lied to the people, has actively cheated, has actively done so many things that are straight up illegal, and he's still in office. Yes. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem on its own on a legal power. But also I think it actually shows the power that we have, because it really means he's not being held accountable by the people who are around him. And also means he's not being held accountable by the people. And that also means I think there's a stronger push to hold the people around you, even the people who are close to you, more accountable for the small actions they do, good or bad. And I know this is the reason why the connective tissue is there. I think it's harder to do that now. I think people have a harder time doing so. But I think we need to call out something that is wrong as being wrong and do it passionately so.
I think one of the things that you bring out in that topic is calling something objectively bad. Something that's objectively abhorrent is become more and more difficult in this country because there are people that will celebrate it on either side.
Right.
So we blur the lines of is there something objectively bad? We were joking with Nels a little bit, talking about AI and the ability for AI to create a song out of almost nothing. You know, they'll create orchestration and music and this and the other. And I played around with it. And as a musician myself, Nels was joking with me like, oh, you know, essentially saying, oh, you've gone to the other side, playing with that which would destroy musicians, and some people may say. But I was really experimenting with, but the point is, it's change when we start to change the definition of what is imagination, you know, what is creativity, what is innovation, then we start to blur the lines of, you know, of
what art is.
Yeah, what art is.
Exactly that.
And so you can blur the lines of what is objectively bad if we start to say, this is good.
Right.
You know, if we have everybody saying this is good. I reread the book 1984 by George Orwell, and the main character is Winston Smith. And if you've read 1984, it speaks to a lot of things that we do. They have a language called Newspeak, and Newspeak combines different thoughts. In 1984, not to give a spoiler, but it's a world at the time that it was written. 1984 was the future, and it explained, you know, how Big Brother was always watching. So in other words, if you ever hear people say, oh, Big Brother's watching, that comes from the book 1984. And indeed—
the whole time I thought it was about you, Trey, I gotta tell you.
Well,
the whole time. Oh
that's true. That's true too. But they talk about 1984, these screens that they have where it picks up your voice and it picks up your thing. So you almost have to be careful of what you say. And I dare say we walk around with our screens like that. They talk about double think. Double think is a concept of you thinking about something and knowing it's wrong, but accepting it to be wrong and going forward. They have these different ministries, Ministry of Truth, the Ministry of— anyway, and they call it Mini Truth, you know, the way they— and the goal of the Ministry of Truth is to change history and change what's going on in real time. Through
media and publication.
That's right. So that it would be correct for the moment. So in other words, they actively continue to change the narrative of things that were once true to make it now a new true.
Alternative facts.
Yeah, even
if this doesn't look like America or the world, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to advise people to, you know, or you know, recommend to read 1984
by George Orwell.
Yeah, to see if you see ourselves in it or where you see yourself. It's frightening.
Yeah.
It's frightening.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I appreciate the book recommendation. If because it was published in 1949, I feel as if anyone who has yet to have read it, either for their own self or for, I guess, the school literary reading list, right? I don't think there's a spoiler out there. We've referenced it so many times by that time. Please read the book for yourself. It was a wonderful read. But yeah, like you said, are you, what side of the line are you on once you kind of get an understanding of the characters, once you get an understanding of the plot and the premise of the entire novel? Are you one to go so far as to spy on your own parents to make sure that the ministry gets the dissidents out of the nation? That's just another idea from the book itself. But like, honestly, are we turning on each other?
Right.
All right. Yeah. To make sure that the people in power stay in power. All right. Yeah. Don't forget your community, right? Just because you might have felt like you made a bad decision in this moment and now you're sticking to your guns because of whatever side you voted. All right. Don't let it get so bad that it is blinded to you until it reaches you. You know, just speak up now.
Yes.
All right. Talk against it now, because it's in the neighborhoods now. It's always been in the neighborhoods, but it's in the neighborhoods.
Yeah. Something that I think that I feel like I'm getting to my point in different kind of ways, reiterating it. But something I also want to speak to is going back to the idea of empathy, because another thing that's happening is I think as you get older, as you get older, you're almost told this by society that you have to be more realistic. You have to be more, you can't be as naive to certain things. Sometimes good for goodness sake is a naive concept. Sometimes you have to do what you need to do to get your money, to protect your family, protect your community. And I believe those things to be true. But at the same time, I think the country, the nation, the world, I think perception can be easily bent and people aren't as aware of it, where sometimes we know in our heart of hearts what is to be true, and we can allow ourselves to walk away from that. There is no reason why Renee Good's life should have been taken away from her. So no reason. And that's something that can't be argued. In the same way where I wanted to connect it to one of those things where your neighbor is important. Yes. Your neighbor, their life is important. What their aspirations are, who they want to be, they're important. If your neighbor is someone who is signing up, and whether you know this or not, to be an ICE agent, they are important as an individual. They're making a bad decision. They're making a bad decision whether they know it or not. You cannot control an individual's life like that. You cannot tell someone what to do. You cannot hate someone for not listening to you. But you can allow yourself to be a protector, to be someone who cares, to be someone who is in a position where, like, if I know you, if you're my friend, if I know this is not the life path you chose, why are we going down this direction? And I'm just mentioning this in terms of community because I think people forget, or people are under the pressure of that Renee Good situation, but the nation's situation is bigger than all of us as an individual. So it's very hard to feel like you have power here. It's very hard to feel like, especially if they're not away from it. I think the state of Minnesota, they're doing a great job protesting ICE. And even that, there are people putting their lives on the line. And even if you want to be there, you can't be there. I can imagine how disconnected you feel. But I think in a small way, you have to remind yourself there are certain things that are worth fighting for. There are certain things that are worth not sacrificing yourself for in terms of sacrificing parts of your character. And I think at the very least, whether it's reading 1984, whether it's understanding, last thing I'll say is understanding that empathy is not a trait and empathy is not an emotion. Empathy is a skill. Empathy is something that you do. I think going back to the idea of good or bad, I think people forget that people try to be like, oh, I'm not a bad person, I'm not a good person. And I don't think it's as simple as that anymore, where it's good is an action, good is a choice. When you choose to be good, that is when you're a good person. When you choose to do something bad, you've done a bad thing. And that's not something you can hide away from.
Yes.
Reality is something that people try to act as if it's this analogous thing where, like, we all have different perceptions on it, and that is true. But there are certain things that are facts. There are certain things that are true. There's certain times where you cannot run away from that truth, If the first start is to hold yourself accountable, then do so. If the first thing is to hold your friends and your neighbors accountable, then do so. I'm just sorry. I'm almost at a loss of words for not my point, but I feel like I'm talking about something that's true to my heart and soul. It's weird to say because I think we all know. I think we all know that Renee Good should not have lost their life. Their life should have been taken from them. And I'm in a point now where I have to tell people, hey, people dying is bad. Yes. And that is it. That's bad.
Right. People dying is bad, but people having their lives taken is even worse. Yes. And I'm going to say this to the Good family, those who are connected with we here at various fields, we are, our hearts are with you, but it's no longer time for just to say our thoughts and prayers. Yeah. I thank the community around us for people who are standing up for what is right. That's where we are now. Yeah. We here at various fields have made a commitment to push forward in our own selves, not just here at the podcast. When we are available, we're going to be on the streets. And those who are like-minded...
in the streets protesting.
Thank you for clarification. You're right. You're protesting that which is wrong. And we are going to advise those who are like-minded to, this is the time to use your ability to be present. To, sometimes people feel that if I just hold a sign, I'm not doing enough. I promise you, we saw the connection between the King's protest and the elections that happened afterwards. When we start to galvanize as a community, and we galvanize our votes, and, your vote is a voice for sure. This is not the time at the upcoming elections, and any election, local elections particularly. It's not the time for us to be silent. We must be present, and that's it. I thank you, Lexington, for making this episode possible, because it's very emotional for all of us, and we hope that it reaches your heart. And those who might have decided to make some bad decisions, you can turn it around by making your decisions better. We got about 5 minutes. We're going to make our last statements and close out.
Yeah, a lot of the times when we are recording for various fields, there's not a lot of topics that we know off the bat exactly what we're going to talk about. This is one of them. Like there are some weeks where we may prepare for a couple ideas of what we want to present to you guys in your homes, but this is one that kind of like came up in the moment of today, and it always becomes not so much unsettling, but just to think about like how many topics that we have talked about in the past. Some of them were prepared, some of them were lighthearted, but I don't think this conversation was planned.
No.
All right.
Not
and just to also kind of like bring that a little bit to the home front, understand where we are. And I'm sure you're feeling it as well, but just imagine us in our situation and imagine yourself in your situation. If you ever wanted to start a podcast or bring yourself out there into the digital landscape, right? Just imagining what your first video might be, right? Because believe it or not, it may not even be the video you're known for, right? Just imagining being someone that is trying to start off a culinary campaign out online and saying, this is who I am, right? And then also having, in contrast, someone who kind of like goes off by being the neighbor of Renee Good, right? Because this is a video that I saw, right? I don't know if everyone saw the same exact video, but like the thing that chilled me the most is someone talking against the ICE agent and saying like, how can I calm down? You just killed my neighbor. You know what I mean? And just like, mind you, I'm sure they probably had a voice online prior to this, but to film that moment, right? And to go national with that video, all right? Just say like that's where my cry was heard the most. That was where my identity was shown the strongest, when I opposed this force that was right next to me, that had nothing to do with me, but yet was right by my doorstep, So when does your voice matter? It matters right now. And what you cry for becomes the most important thing. What you are known for is, I guess, what you stand on. All right. Yes. And honestly, I think just standing for community becomes the most important voice you can have.
Yes. Lex, I'm going to let you close this out. I'm just going to make my last statement. And if you will allow me, based upon what my son had said, if you guys would repeat after me, how can I calm down?
How can I calm down?
When you've killed my neighbor.
When you've killed my neighbor.
Repeat one more time. How can I calm down?
How can I calm down?
When you've killed my neighbor.
When you've killed my neighbor.
Yeah, I think that does become a point of reality for everybody.
Yeah, I guess I want to end on. We can't end on one note because we're going to do a couple things. First, I'm going to do like a small little general PSA. I'm going to aim this towards men. I'm also going to aim this towards everybody. I'm going to aim this towards men, though, because I think this, as of right now, so many complications. The nation is specifically doing a disservice to men in the way that we're trying to use them. We're trying to use men who are suffering, men who are alone, men who want more, men who feel like the idea of manliness is taken away, and then they're replacing it with something that is a faux strength, which is a gun, which is the idea of money, which is the idea of control and power. I think that's being abused. So first off, if you are a man or if you know men who you believe, just please go to therapy. Please hold yourself accountable. Please understand that power isn't everything. Secondly, I guess something I want to do, and this is being not necessarily vulnerable, but being my nerdy self and being something that I just speaking what I believe in. How do I say this? Actually, our father used to tell us this: seek out to reach out to seek out. Be there for people as much as you can, whether it's just giving a smile, whether it's like, hey, I've helped my friend out a lot this time, but maybe just do a little bit more. If someone's in need and you don't really know them, but you know they're going through something, maybe send a message. And I'm trying to do the whole small acts of kindness thing, because I think they go further than people think. And I do really believe we're in a desperate time where the idea of the small connective tissue is something we really, really need. I like to believe that if we're all a little bit kinder,
we won't have to feel so isolated.
We don't feel so isolated. We also won't be affected, but we can reach one more person. I'm not naive enough to believe that something like that can stop a tragedy that we experienced, that we saw in the video with Renee Good. But I do, in my whole heart, believe that if we all enable us to try harder, we can stop people from being the type who are Donald Trump like her, who are people who feel like they need to join ICE, who are people who can get that far ahead, you know? Because it's impossible to know where people are. It's impossible to know how that individual ends up making that decision. But at the same time, I'd like to believe that, sorry, I'm losing it a little bit here.
No, it's okay.
I'm going to be naive and then we'll go back to the main point. We need more good in this world, and that is possible. That's the thing. We need more. We need to be kinder. We need to be better. We need to understand that our neighbors aren't our enemies. We need to understand that even with the idea of illegal immigration, that an individual can't be illegal. You have to understand that forcing anyone out of a country, forcing people out through power, through gun, through threat is wrong, is bad. And we have, as a nation, the power and the money and the responsibility to be better. We need to be better. And I trust our viewership, I trust our audience to understand what I mean by that. Thank you. I trust our audience to understand what we mean by that. So I guess I'm just going to say, in fact, we'll do one last thing. I trust our audience. Please, if you listen to us, if you hear us, help the people around you, help your community around you, and we'll see how far that goes. But if you also happen to know us personally, you know what this means to us, you know how we do, you know how myself specifically, I see myself as someone with a superhero complex, as a nerd who grew up on these kind of things. We are better than this. We can be better than this. And I want to be able to call people to do so.
All right. Well, listen, I love you guys. I just want to say, come back next week for another episode of Various Fields. And the way we're feeling right now, we can tell you this is how we feel when we lose one good in society. So let's try not to lose any more good people, and be safe when you protest. Okay. Thank you. Come back next week for Various Fields.
Nice.